Festive season comes to an end. Many workers are heading back to their jobs after days of travel. There's the late nights and even little sleep. Now, experts are warning about the dangers of returning to the job without enough rest because of festivities. There may even be a lack of proper recovery time, which can affect health, safety, and even productivity, raising concerns for both workers and employers. Let's navigate the dangers about returning back to work without enough rest during the festive season. And joining me now is the clinical psychologist, Dr. Keitumetse Mashego. Doc, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it. I was telling my colleagues that there's two ways to do this. One, just don't go on a break. Then you've just worked the whole time, and you don't mess up your schedule. Your entire routine isn't messed up. Or you go on your break and then you come back and you're just as tired as before anyway. What's the best one here?
Good morning and thank you for having me. Sadly, people, when they do take the break, the itinerary is so full. And some, unfortunately, they come from toxic families. So what happens is when they do go home, they come back more stressed than when they left their workplaces. But also we're living in this era where people are anxious, right? So we're living in this anxious society because of the social ills and, the geopolitical things that's happening. So there's a lot going on and we're under pressure at work. And unfortunately, there's high incidence of bullying in the workplace. There's now incidences of toxic bosses. So there's a lot going on in the workplace. People are highly pressurized, and also the perfectionists who want to perform 100%, they work 24/7. So even when they do take the break, they don't really shut down. They're still working during the break because they just feel the pressure to continue working.
Oh my goodness, you said people's families are, what is it, toxic? Oh boy, not too many should be hearing that, because some will say that's how you do it. You go home and you have to be the one that cooks, you have to be the one that, does all the work really in some ways. But it's that sort of anxiety of going home and having to really fix things in some ways that makes it hard to relax then and hard to relax now. How important is it to try and set aside that time purposefully?
Definitely, it's very important. And I always say to people, you need about 2 weeks. Because in the first week, you're sort of still in the work mode. You're still, thinking about the office, the things that you must do when you come back. So the first week, you're still quite highly anxious or still in work mode. So the second week, that's when you actually start to relax. And I know many people do not have the privilege of having such long breaks, but definitely you need about 2 weeks to prevent burnout. And I think we use the word burnout so many times, but we don't actually unpack it. So it's actually emotional exhaustion and physical exhaustion where people say things like, I have nothing left to give, right? Because I'm so depleted. They feel like they're driving a car with no petrol. And for some, it becomes so severe that they're so cynical towards work. They have this resentment towards it. And if they're working with people, sometimes they see people as, they dissociate and see them as objects. So then it becomes quite dysfunctional when you suffer with burnout. And for some, they have this inadequacy. So in spite of the accolades they might have, the evidence, they still feel like they're not good enough just because of burnout. So burnout can be quite debilitating and lead to a lot of stress. And stress is physical symptoms without the physical cause. People start complaining of headaches, stomach aches, insomnia. And when they go to the doctor finds nothing wrong with that. So it can really be, quite detrimental if you do not rest.
Yeah, and you just made me think about the emotional roller coaster it could ultimately cause here. And you have this holiday hangover then as well, where you start overeating, you have poor sleep because you've been used to a different sleep pattern as well and trying to come back. Doctors are even saying that there could even be dehydration. All of that really affects and create many risks, especially in focus-driven work environments as well, and impacting productivity.
Definitely, and that's where you get people then start to develop poor coping strategies in order to get back to, to the grind, to start working. So that's when you get people drinking all sorts of stimulants. Then you get people who are still struggling with sleep. Then they're drinking things to help them sleep at the right time to sort of start, the routine of going back to work. And when we say people use substances, it doesn't just mean alcohol or over-the-counter medication. It can also be food, just just in an attempt to cope. So they also can overdo things because too much of anything is too much. So if now they're over exercising, they're going to the gym, the whole day, they're trying to go there twice in a day. And I always say to people, but you're not a competitive athlete. Even competitive athletes struggle to go to gym. So why are you doing that to yourself? And, setting themselves up for failure, wanting to gym for 7 days. And I mean, the work demands are so high and life happens. Sometimes you're unable to do that. So I think also just the coping strategies that come in an attempt to get back to the routine of work can be quite dysfunctional.
Yeah, and on the other side, you mentioned anxiety, but that could be based off the financial strain, right? You've now had this holiday that you had to pay for so many things, and now you get back. It's January, and we know what it's called, actually, and it's a long, long month until payday.
And, I tell people that you can actually take a break at other times of the year, because in December, everything is so overpriced. So if you're able to take that holiday in May, do that. Things are a little bit cheaper, but when you tell people don't go home in December, it's almost like you're giving them a prison sentence, right? Because that is what has been conditioned, that we need to go home or to celebrate. And it's only 2 weeks, by the way, between, the so-called festive season. So we spend so much and then we need to come back to reality. But you can actually avoid it also and not be with the people who are toxic, for example, or do the things that are not costly and wait for when things are more affordable for you to enjoy a holiday. But I think we've been conditioned as society to take a break in December, but also it's because companies close, etc. But people do have leave days where they can actually take a holiday at the other times of the year, which I often encourage.
Yeah. Okay. Let's find the solutions here. What do we do? How do we get this right? And I'm going to ask this on the basis of two sets of people here. One, the employer and the employee, as we try and get people back into the year of work.
I think it's almost like let's not expect too much from them too soon. And I understand some, of the environments you can't afford not to have that. But I think preempting before the holiday, actually, we need to actually start planning our comeback from the holiday or from the 2 weeks break. So I think when you do get back, I think the employees need to be self-aware, because we need to be aware when we're not managing, we're a bit stressed, and that's why people like myself exist. So if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling you're not able to do the things you do, take it baby steps. Like start, if you want to get back to exercising, please don't now want to run a marathon on day one. Please, it's okay to go for a walk, to run 1 kilometer. That's also mileage, right? So just start being active, but you don't have to now go full blown into that active mode. But being active is very important. And I think just being more intentional about your days. So planning your day, being in the traffic again, and also understanding that there's a bigger picture here. Yes, it's not nice to sit in the traffic, but, at the end of the day, maybe you're doing what you love, or you're going to a place where, you're going to do what it is that you are hired to do. So I think just also keeping in mind why you're there. But the employers as well, I think, need to understand that, yes, people are coming back and they might be taking leave now, sick leave, just because they don't have finances to come to work. So I think also that creating that flexibility for if some environments allow for work from home, and also understanding also, though, that let's create environments that we can actually have conversations about our real situations and coping mechanisms, and hire people like myself to come and debrief.
All right, Doc, look, we've been running a poll about this question today, and we've been asking our people who are watching the show, have you rested enough to return to work? Now, just to give you what our poll looks like, and I don't know what you can see there, but hopefully you can see it. Only 10% are saying yes, fully rested. Only 10%, right? Just getting by is at 17%, and the not at all is at 73%. And I guess that goes to a lot of what we've been speaking about so far. But here's one comment that I thought maybe we could just touch on, and maybe you could get a response to some of these comments that have been coming through. And this one is from Matia saying, no, the companies must give us at least a month to rest. I mean, it's ambitious, but it's the 2 weeks that you suggested twice.
Yeah, I'm not sure if companies will be open to that, but also we wonder what that person will be doing in the month. Because if you want to take a rest, you must be intentional in resting and actually rest. Not to have this itinerary that when you come back from the month, you actually need time to recover from the month. So you've gone all out, you've been to the places that you wanted to go, and you're not rested at all. So I think people actually don't know how to rest. We don't sit with ourselves. We don't know what to do with ourselves when we've got nothing to do, right? We're so scared of sitting and just being and not doing much. Because when you tell people, especially those who work a lot, who work hard, to say, well, I'm booking you off, but you need to do nothing. They're like, how do I do nothing? I don't know how to do nothing.
Yeah.
It just shows you that we are constantly on soldier mode, on autopilot, that we actually don't know how to be civilians anymore. So we actually need to start being civilians. And what do civilians do? They sit and they drink coffee, they paint, they go for walks, they do things that they couldn't do in a war. So I think that there's a need to actually start, pushing this message out there that rest is just as important as hard work. Because if you're not resting, that's why we're getting such high incidences of people just collapsing, right? And you wonder, but they were young. What's happening? And we're getting all sorts of illnesses and mental health challenges and stress symptoms, and people are not doing well physically and emotionally, right? So we really need to promote this thing of resting, because rest is, quite imperative for one to reset and to also understand that there's more to life than work, right? And that your identity around work. So do things that actually bring you peace, and that's maybe the thing that should be done in 2026. Find the thing that brings you peace. That's not hectic, like going out and drinking and having fun.
Doc, I only have 30 seconds, but I wanted to go to this last comment that we got as well here from Douglas, saying the more you rest is the more you drain your energy and the interest for work. I mean, just very, very quickly, what do you think of that?
I think for someone saying something like that, they need to then unpack what's happening that drains their energy at work. As I spoke about, what burnout is someone who keeps, says things like, I don't have anything left in me to go to work. So they need to then come and see someone like myself so that we can unpack objectively what's going on. Is it the workspace? Is it an internal thing? Or is it both? Just so that they are able to be energized and re-look or have a different perspective about work, so they're able to function in spite of the work itself. So because sometimes we cannot change the system, the toxicity, but what we can do is take charge of ourselves, which is what we do to assist people to facilitate that, so they're able to function in spite of the toxic system in the workplace sometimes.
All right, let's rest. Let's go and rest. It's enough. Thank you. Clinical psychologist, Dr. Keitumetse.